Hey guys, Michael Furlong here from Rentroll Maximiser, and I have the pleasure in chatting to Mark Appleby, Managing Director of Buckmaster Hawkey. Mark's business has been operating since 1981, which is around the same time I was born. Ish.
And give or take a few years.
Give or take another say 10 or so years. I think 81, I was just finishing, I was at high school maybe actually, in 81. So you've been around for a long time, Mark, the business. And you've been there for
20 years myself.
20 years. And we're chatting today around permanent recruitment. We're talking about the changes to we will talk about a little bit about the changes to the entrance level into the real estate industry. But today we just want to chat a little bit about temping. And so temping agency staff, is it common, Mark? Is it something which agencies will use as part of their strategy, or is it always a disaster? Is it a fallback? How does it work?
Great question. Temping does a lot of things, Michael, both for a client or a real estate business and also for a candidate. So for a client, the obvious is it fills a void if there's a vacant position and they haven't yet sourced or started a new permanent hire. So it helps the business, get through that time until their new person, their new hire starts. For a candidate, it's a way of keeping their hand in. And I've got a number of temps that I call lifestyle temps, Michael, that they're the secondary breadwinner in their family, and they elect to block out certain dates like school holidays where they're not available to work. And then they'll work between school holidays and they'll tell me I'm available these dates and not from here. So they can pick and choose when they want to work. It's great lifestyle from that regard. It also can serve as a temp to perm trial. So if somebody happens to not be working and I have a client ring up and say, look, we need a temp till we find somebody permanently, and that temp's in the market for that, they get a bit of try before they buy with no obligation to go any further. So if they're in there a couple of weeks, the client likes them, the candidate, vice versa, then I'd be instructed with an offer to put to the candidate and formalise the permanent appointment.
Does that happen a lot, Mark, where you've got someone that goes through as a temp, so they've gone through on, say, a 4 or 6 week assignment, and then they end up taking the role?
Very frequently. I've got two offers of temps today, Michael, that have been on assignment with this client for a particular, well over 6 weeks. It usually comes down to where the candidate, the temp is at in their journey. If they're not open to permanent work, so they might be going overseas, well, they won't be going overseas in the current climate, but if they're about to go overseas, say in June, they wouldn't accept a permanent role, so they'll temp between now and then. Or I've got another temp registered with us. She's about to start a dog grooming business in a couple of months and she needs a top up of income until she does it. So people temp for different reasons. And if those temps are not permanent prospects, then of course the assignment comes to an end at some point. But we always make the client aware if this temp is a prospect for permanent, we always make the client aware of that. So if they go, gee, we really like Michael Furlong, he's really fitting in well, he knows his stuff, then they'd call me after a couple of weeks and say, look, can we have a chat to Michael about a permanent opportunity?
So it's a try before you buy approach, isn't it? For both aspects.
It is. It's like living with your partner before getting married. And there's no obligation for the employer to make an offer to the temp if they don't feel the candidate's right, or vice versa. The candidate might think, look, I'm happy to help out in temp here. This place isn't for me. So they're happy to stay there because they know that there's an end date in sight.
Yeah. So from an agency, let's look at the reasons why an agency would need temps. So they've just had a staff member leave.
Yes.
So or give notice. So yes. That would be filling a role where there's an existing portfolio. What about, Mark, for holidays? Is that something?
Definitely. Annual leave is huge. Before COVID happened, we used to get big blocks of Melbourne winter times when Melburnians would go to Europe for 4 to 6 week holidays. Very, very common, especially with trust accountants for some reason. We get a lot of trust accounting long-term assignments in Melbourne's winters for those reasons. Another reason would also be...
So I guess, Mark, from that, we can take away that trust accountants are paid too much. Because if they're going to Europe,
can afford to go to Europe. Yeah, I think so.
They're on a good wicket.
Yeah. And another reason might be extra pair of hands. So at the moment, because there's so many vacancies in rental properties in Melbourne, leasing is a huge challenge at the moment. So I've got temps out at the moment. They're just doing open for inspections all day, day in, day out. That's all they're doing. Also,
top up for a busy period.
Yes, exactly. And also things like catching up with routine inspections that couldn't be done through lockdown. So extra pairs of hands is another reason why a client might engage a temp.
And of course, Mark, then there'd be maternity leave. You would have that as well. Is that something which...
Yeah, look, what we tend to do, there comes a point in time when a temp assignment sort of goes beyond 12 weeks, it starts to get quite expensive for the real estate agency to have a temp for that long. Obviously, because that we pay the temp's wages, we've got to pay work cover, all the statutory liabilities are on us. And then, of course, we've got a margin. So when it goes beyond 3 months, if it was maternity contract, even for a 6-month contract, I'd usually say to the client, look, you're better to put this person on your books, on your payroll, pay us a placement fee prorated, and they earn the leave entitlements, but there's an expiry date on the hire. That's a more cost-effective way for a real estate business if the assignment's going to go beyond sort of 12 weeks.
So in that scenario, if there was and I saw just recently there was an agency out of Canberra which hadn't spoken to Chris for a little while. He said that he has 5 girls that are currently either in process of maternity leave or about to go on maternity leave at once.
He needs to sterilise his water.
Well, it's Canberra, and I was going to start saying, well, maybe we need to have channels after 9 o'clock and TV on and all. But anyway, but 5 out of a team, that's a lot, as a massive impact.
It is, and look, a lot of residential property management departments have more females than males. Michael, I don't know why. I think I do know why that is, because a lot of the gateway to get in is via reception for a lot of female residential property managers. But also what I'd like to raise about temping, Michael, if I may, if you're a candidate in the market, an experienced real estate professional, and what we look for when we're looking to take temps on. So life as a temp on the other side of the fence is we will only send temps out to an assignment that the temp is actually skilled and experienced to hit the road running. Yeah. So because we can't expect a client to pay for a temp to train them. Now, there are exceptions where there might be a software or an app that they haven't used and an hour's crash course they'll train, and I might not charge the client for that hour in lieu of them training them, and it upskills the temp. But the biggest thing that we look for temps is them to be reliable, so that they turn up to assignments on time, they hold a professional mantle at all times, don't buy into any office politics. They are a Buckmaster Hawkey employee and they are flying our flag. So they are a representation of my brand out there in the Melbourne real estate market. So when we are onboarding temps, we sort of share what we expect in terms of work ethics, reliability, and also availability. So I love to have temps on my books where I get a call on a Monday morning and a client's receptionist is called sick, and I know that there's a handful of receptionists that I get a call and I go, Mark, I'm jumping in the shower now, I'll be there at 10 o'clock. That type of attitude makes for a great temp.
You need to be quite flexible, don't you?
You do. And look, if you're skilled at, say, you're a residential property manager, you could do a number of different assignments. If you're happy to sit on reception to cover for annual leave or a Christmas party, you could be assisting a property management department running around doing routine inspections or helping out with leasing. You could be caretaking a portfolio. So a residential property manager could be utilised in about 3 or 4 different skill sets of a temporary assignment.
And I think that one of the key attributes there would have to be flexibility. Yeah,
flexibility and reliability. Because there's nothing worse than me getting a call from a client saying they don't know where the temp is, or the temp's constantly late, or we're getting complaints about the temp, or they're politicking with the others, or those sorts of things. It's the worst thing as a recruitment agency of my brand can want to hear. That's things we just don't want to hear from our clients.
And Mark, just finally, as I look at that, so from a candidate's point of view, when they go through and they say I've been temping for a year and they might have had, say, 10 assignments throughout that period of time, or whatever it may be, more or less, is that a negative on their resume, or are they just saying I was a temp for a year? They're not saying I was here, and here, because we spoke earlier about how we want to see consistency in a resume. That's really classed as one project, isn't it?
It's one. So if they temp for my business for a year, in their resume, they should have the month, the year that they began and ended, and it'll have employer Buckmaster Hawkey, and you'd have in there carried out various temporary property management assignments, and that's all you would need. So then that then just date stamps what you were doing and your work history at that time. But you don't need to go into detail about which who the clients were that you temped for necessarily.
Yep.
So it's just really, date stamping. I temp for Buckmaster Hawkey for this period, doing a variety of these assignments.
So in summary, there's two aspects here, two stakeholders. The first one, from an agency point of view, if you and what I said before about the disaster is someone sick, injured, isn't there, and it's right now. I need someone right now. Call you. If it's planned, I've got some holidays, 4 weeks that are coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Call you. Give as much notice as possible. Maybe if it's a transition for someone leaving for an extended period of time, they're taking maybe a longer annual leave. Call you. And in between job roles and those things. Then from a candidate's point of view, if you're looking for some diversity, if you're looking for flexibility, but I think also you'd be massively upskilled by going to so many different places. You'd see the best and the worst of the industry, wouldn't you?
Well, absolutely. Some of my seasoned temps, I've got some temps that have been on my books temping for me for over 10 years, Michael. That's all they've done. And they have seen pretty much just about every software and system and app, good, bad, and indifferent in Melbourne. And they've been out into so many different environments, those that have been exceptionally well run, those that are poorly run, and they have got a wealth of knowledge of that and how functional or dysfunctional a given agency operates.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Mate, you've given me a very good insight into the world of how the temps work. Mark, anyone wants to get in touch with you, agency and or candidate, buckmasterhawkey.com.au, that's where you go?
That's where they go, or 96295000.
Okay, I won't try and record that, but I will put that down below underneath. Thanks, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Michael. Cheers.